What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jacked Ramsays Live. It's a afternoon edition, solo edition, still by myself. That happens. Quick little update. FanFest was yesterday. I did not go. I was on my way there, and I got sick, so I had to turn around and come back home. So I was not there yesterday. I watched all the videos and saw everybody had their fun. I hope you guys made it out there and had your fun as well. The obviously bummer part of that is if you went to FanFest yesterday, you went there probably early on thinking, hey, I'm going to go see Shaedon Sharpe. And you didn't get to because we got word early yesterday that Shaedon was not going to participate. And when I asked for clarification, it was not good. So I guess that's the place to start here. First of all, welcome in. Appreciate you. Love you. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Do all the things that we need to do to help grow the channel, get things back on track as the season starts rolling. And like I said, I'm going to continue to crank these out. Unfortunately, I cursed Shaedon Sharpe. My first season preview was Shaedon Sharpe. And down he went, unfortunately. The Portland Trailblazers statement read, Shaedon Sharpe has suffered a small posterior labral tear in his left shoulder. MRI confirmed this week. He'll begin rehab and is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. I hate to be Danny Downer before the season even starts, but obviously, number one, it sucks for that part of things. But beyond that, if it's 4 to 6 weeks, I'll be shocked. It's a shoulder, man. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. You're talking about, a shoulder injury that he has injured previously. For those that are unaware, this is the same shoulder that Shaedon injured at Summer League in his rookie debut, where he played 5 minutes and 36 seconds or something like that. So, my concern level is up, certainly. Like, it's shoulder. Like, once you have a shoulder issue, I tend to worry, especially if you have a recurring one, because it just never absolutely gets right. That's shoulders suck. That's just what they do. Of all of the things I've ever injured, my shoulder is the one thing that I've never really done anything detrimental to. So, knock on wood, shout out. But I have plenty of friends who have, and they all said the exact same things. Once you do it once, it just keeps going and going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny of crappy injuries. It sucks for Shaedon. I think I shared on here last week. I heard Shaedon was starting to really put some stuff together this summer. Now, whether or not something from the summer translates, that's always up for debate. But I had good feedback. I had good intel on Shaedon this summer. That was promising. So that's a major bummer. Also, earlier in the week, we had Robert Williams III dealing with a hamstring injury. They've downplayed it. My thoughts on it are this, and this is one I can't sympathize with. So Rob had the surgery on one leg. The hamstring was on the other. I can't remember which one it was because I was getting mixed up. But it very much sounds like a compensation injury, and that's what happens when you come back from these. That I'm intimately familiar with. And it is kind of a part of the process, but it also just means I don't want to liken myself to a premier top-level athlete, but considering we've had some of the similar injuries and he is bearing some of the similar circumstances that I dealt with, I hope he doesn't have the same kind of issues I did, which means this stuff, it just never goes away. It just doesn't. And considering Rob's nicks and knocks that he's had, it sounds like it does. So that's unfortunate, but we'll dive into Rob here in a little bit as well. But the Shaedon Sharpe injury, what does it mean, grand scheme? Well, number one, it sucks for Shaedon, right? You never want to see this. Nobody that doesn't, and to me, it's about the biggest injury you could have for this team is him not being on the floor, because the single player that you want to see the most from this year, one way or the other, is Shaedon. I think that's full stop, right? So on that point, and again, it maybe, you know what? I'll put the good news in the air, or the good vibes in the air. Maybe it is just 4 to 6 weeks, and he come back and it has zero bearing on him whatsoever. I won't be down or Danny there. There's your uplifting moment. He's just going to be back, mid-November. No big deal, right? I don't think it's going to go that way, but let's just put that out there. That's that does exist. That pathway is there, right? Okay. So beyond that, now your rotation is going to look different, right? So who starts, who goes? I think you're looking at a couple different. My camera decided it wanted to completely unfocus. That's always fun. There we go. I think you're looking at the starting lineup will now go from Ant, Shaedon, Denny, JG, DeAndre to Scoot, Ant, Denny, JG, DA. And I think you automatically run into problems. You get significantly smaller in your backcourt. You're taking Ant off the ball. You're putting a non-shooter, so to speak, with Scoot on the floor. If you want to look at it from a positive side of things, you're putting Scoot with the first unit, so he has more weapons to utilize. He has more people to play with. There's more space for him to operate. But yeah, Scoot's going to be your starter. It'll be Scoot, Ant, Denny, JG, DA. What's interesting is now the second unit, it's like, oh, who handles the ball? I think there's a world that exists where the Trailblazers were going to head into this season with 14 players on the roster, which means not picking up, Delano Banton's full contract. I guess not full contract, his roster bonus, and carrying him as the 15th man, or Devontae Graham. And I guess you're going to have Bryce McGowan's fill the patchwork minutes. I haven't heard anything otherwise, but who knows? Maybe there's an opportunity now that Delano Banton, his odds of staying on the team increase, and I don't think they made a decision on that yet, but I think that's something that was there. And I think that was going with just 14 made sense if you're talking about making a deal, right? So if you're going to trade Jeremy Grant, if you're going to trade Robert Williams, you're going to trade anyone, you could go 2 for 1, right? Because particularly if you're trading Jeremy, $30 million contract, the likelihood is you're not going to go 1 for 1. You're going to go at least 2 for 1. So I think that was part of their plan, was to keep things smaller there at least. But here's where they're at now. What does this mean kind of going forward? Well, hopefully Scoot is more in the vein of how he finished last year as opposed to how he started last year. This will be very similar, obviously, going out there in that starting lineup with Anthony Simons and JG and DA. Working Denny in is certainly going to be useful. Just talking to guys, everybody seems to really, really, really appreciate what Denny's bringing. And I mentioned this last show, and I think I've mentioned it on the air too. Scoot's summer, there's Coach Thorpe had his article, and I had some independent feedback that it just didn't go well at certain times, which is a bummer to hear, but also on the same line of like Shaedon looking better. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, this, that, or the other. Let's see what it looks like in game time. Because I've heard from a couple of players here that over the last couple of days, Scoots look pretty good. And the thing that I really want to see from Scoot is it's not the shooting, it's not more control or this, that. It's, for me, it's like, let's see this dude that's got all this power and explosiveness really show it. And a couple of guys have said that he's thrown down a few dunks in practice and got more power underneath him, and that's, I think, the thing that I want to see. And if this is every time it's next man up mentality in professional sports, right? And this is an opportunity for Scoot, because Scoot was coming off the bench. That's what it was. Shaedon Sharpe healthy, it was going to be Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe starting. That was going to be your starting backcourt. Full stop. So this presents a unique opportunity for Scoot here in that, he's going to probably have 15-ish games and to show that he's grown, to show that he's a little bit better, that show that, he can power up and dunk on guys in traffic or finish in traffic or take care of the ball. Like, those are the things that I think, he has a real opportunity. Like, notice how I didn't say shooting, because I'm not really worried about the shooting. I think the shooting is what it is at this point. I think he'll get better to an extent, but I'm not terribly worried about him being a Russell Westbrookian shooter, but I'm also not worried about him being Reggie Miller. Like, just go out there, shoot 36+% from three, and everything else will kind of take care of itself. Like, I feel like that's a pretty stable, solid place to go, right? As for Shaedon, what you don't hope, or what you hope for here, is that this is not something that is chronic. That is something that is going to linger. I think you can even make the argument that 2 injuries to the same shoulder is chronic. I've seen a lot of people when I posted on Twitter, this is Nasir Little, this is Brandon Roy, this is Greg Oden, blah blah blah. Like, you're not wrong. I don't think you're right, but you're not wrong either. Like, I don't think it's a heresy to think that. Like, it's one thing if you have a hamstring here, a wrist there. Like, I think Ant's a good example of this. Ant's had like a hamstring, and he's had the thumb. Like, you just pick up little knocks, and that happens, right? That's the course of the NBA. But it's like, unfortunately for Nasir Little, he had the dual core injury. Brandon Roy, obviously his knees. Greg, his knees, and you start kind of like, okay, you're dealing with the same stuff over and over, or more stuff that kind of like lives in the same area, right? And for Shaedon now, it's 2 shoulders and a core. And that's like, those are not insignificant injuries, right? And so I'm not calling him injury prone yet, but I think if you're at that point, I don't think you're wrong. Which, going into the season, not great, Bob. Not great. So, so just whatever you do, whether you're a person of faith or not at all, or whatever, do whatever it is you do to send out good vibes, prayer, whatever. Get things under control. We'll circle back to that and kind of how the rotations change, and after we talk about Rob's injury is obviously a lot less severe, but also it's kind of one of those ones where your natural reaction is like, of course, he's dealt with injuries the last 3-4 years, and this is a continuing path or continuing trend, a return to play, whatever you want to call it. But Rob being out does streamline the process, and everybody out there saber rattling for Donovan Clingan to play. Well, you're gonna get your wishes. Rob, talking to Chauncey Friday, asked if Rob would basically be ready for the starting for the first game of the season, which is the 23rd. I would say he did not. Let's see, what's the right word here? Did not really get real excited about Rob coming back for he's like I don't even know what days or which. It was a really good deflection. Chauncey's gotten really good at that. His coach speak has gotten so much better over the last couple of years. But I wouldn't count on Rob being ready to start the season. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of which way they go. Do they lean on Doo-Wop a little bit to kind of allow Donovan to get up to pace? And I use up to pace specifically for this reason. DA in his post-practice availability Friday was asked about Donovan, and he's like, he's getting after it. He's running, he's working hard. He didn't give up on anything, but you could tell he's fighting it. And it was like, that was a nod to, yeah, Bob, he's 7'3", 290, and running up and down the floor at NBA pace is difficult. And for all of the people who got really upset about Donovan Clingan talking about practice and playing hard at UConn and blah, 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 he's still not in NBA shape. It's different. So, as much as, and real quick on that note, if you thought that he was talking about Chauncey and how he doesn't know how to run a practice or something along those lines, he was trying not to call Coach Hurley an absolute lunatic. So, yeah, I guess people are going to see what they want to see, say what they want to say. But I thought that was funny that was the narrative that came out of that. Because if you know anything about Coach Hurley, you know that he's an absolute psychopath in the best possible way. But he's a lunatic. And, You can't do that in the NBA. But it's probably a good time to plug. Coach Hurley will be on with me here next week. I'm still locking in the time. I believe we're going to go on Wednesday. So, but I believe Wednesday afternoon we'll have Coach Hurley. So that'll be a really cool thing to talk about with Donovan. But this allows for, I think, them to slowly ramp up Donovan into some opportunities and see how he does. If Shaedon's going to be out, I guess it's nice to have one other shiny thing out there besides Denny. I still don't think this is going to be a thing where, like, oh, Donovan's going to get like 24 minutes because, number one, those minutes aren't there. Number two, I don't think he's like capable of handling that many minutes yet. And it's not a brain thing, it's a physical thing. Again, I'm going to keep hammering this point over and 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 over. He's 7'3", 290 pounds. Like, running up and down the floor at that size is very, very, very difficult. And he is a guy who's never played more than 24 minutes in college. Just is what it is. For everybody's like, he needs to play more. It's like, he can't. It's okay. Like, he's just getting a body that big up to pace is going to be a part of this process. And honestly, I think it's the biggest part of this process. I think everything else, like, talking to the other players, it's very evident that Donovan has the brain, the mentality, the IQ, and the feel to be a better player. And that doesn't mean he's going to be an all-star caliber player, but like to be a good pro. Like, I haven't gotten any feedback like, oof, he just doesn't have it, or it's going to be a while. Like, guys can't really hide that as much as they try. A lot of it has been like, yeah, he's getting it, but it's like, he's sucking some wind. And that's like kind of the nature of the beast when you're that big. So, I think this is going to give an opportunity to both Donovan and Duop, because Duop was kind of like the odd man out, I think, in a lot of discussions, which is kind of funny. I love Duop as a human, and as a basketball player, he's super fun. I want Scoot to be paired with Donovan so that it allows him to build that rapport with his young big man. But also, I kind of want Duop to play with Scoot so there's a little bit more spacing on the floor. So it's kind of like, one hand up, one hand up. I don't know. But I have heard before Shaedon was dealing with this that Scoot was basically running with the second unit, right? And having Donovan and Tumani on the second unit, despite their offensive limitations as far as creation, really kind of gave Scoot a steadying presence because like their basketball IQ and their feel is very high, especially for young guys. And I think that's something I kind of want to see translate is, okay, what does this look like going forward? What are the opportunities here with these injuries for particularly Donovan and for Scoot Henderson? Can they get out there and show that they've grown, show that there's more control? I think obviously it's going to look very different for Scoot than it is for DC. Obviously, DC being brand new, everything's the ceiling is the roof, right? You don't really know what you've got. Like, you can go with Summer League. I don't expect Donovan Clingan to go out there and grab 15 rebounds a game and 5 blocks. Now, his per 36 numbers might look like that. Like, that wouldn't shock me in the least bit. But we'll see where that goes. For Scoot, though, can he go out there and the things that I've hammered, obviously, are the interior finishing, the rim finishing, layups, dunks, like looking more explosive, looking more athletic. The other thing is, this I'm kind of giving away the goods of the write-up that I have going on him right now. That, well, I was supposed to talk to Scoot yesterday, but I didn't get to, so that is delaying the preview for Scoot. But his turnovers last year were so sideways with bad passes. And that was the thing, like, because Scoot's ability to pass and create is like his passing bag, like the different passes he can throw. Right hand, left hand, live dribble, on the move, hook pass, hitting that pass to the opposite corner, that skip pass. Like, those are things like he has the ability to do, but a lot of times he misfired them. And like, when he's accurate, it's great. He's one of the better passers. I mean, on this team, he might have the best. I mean, not might. He has the best passing versatility when you're talking about passing skill. But his consistency in his passing is something that kind of lingers. And I think that's another thing that I'll really be watching. And I think having guys that space the floor a little bit better, obviously Ant, JG, Denny, and hell, DA, if he spaces to 18. But I think those are the things that I'm really, really, really looking at right now to kind of see which way things go for this. And now we're getting into the season. Let's see. Our first preseason game is my brain is fried, guys. So forgive me. It's the 11th, right, in Seattle? Yeah. So Friday. Friday is the first game, and then they have a Sunday game in Sacramento. So that's going to be, the quick, fast, and in a hurry to see what this stuff looks like. I will be up in Seattle. I believe Sean and I are both going. Trying to think. I don't know if anybody else is heading up there yet, but I know for sure us two are going. We'll see them take on the Clippers, who they will probably not have Kawhi Leonard. So, it's preseason, but whatever. But taking a look at that preseason game, I think that's between now and then, those are the things that I'm looking at. Is the opportunity for Scoot to show that he's cleaned some stuff up. And I think that'll be a huge, huge, huge level of growth. And I think that's something you can't downplay, is that he has the opportunity to go out there. And look, there's a world exists where Scoot goes out there and absolutely shines, sure. But I don't want to set him up for failure, because I believe that was kind of the case last year. I think a lot of people were I tried to downplay this last year. Remember, 15-5-5, guys. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy good line. With any level of efficiency. And everyone's no, he's going to average 18-7, and he's going to do that. It's no. I'm not saying to set the bar low just so you can feel better, but just understand the progress of young players. And sometimes, it's actually always, it's never linear. The growth, you'll see some growth, you'll see some step backs, you'll see some more growth, you'll see some step backs. You might see a huge growth, you might see a small growth. It's there's so many different ways that this stuff can go. So I think the biggest thing is just kind of go out there and hope for some growth and some opportunity, and it's there now. So I think we're going to keep this one a little bit shorter, just because it's injury news, and those are the things that are out there, and it's, it is what it is. Like I said, I have the preseason preview on Scoot Henderson that's coming out later this week. Like I said, I want to talk to Scoot, and before I do that, I actually might hold on to that one. I might talk to him on Friday when I'm up at the game, and then push out one of the other ones. The other part of this, I don't want to end yet. I mentioned Tamani Kamara, and I want to give some props in the sense of the same way I've heard about other guys. Two is a guy behind the scenes that I have heard that has really grown, not just physically, because remember, DA said he put on 20 pounds of muscle, which Two says it's closer to 10. Number one, Two does look bigger. Pete looks like a brick house. The other part of this is I've heard that he's really kind of grown, and again, not turning into a superstar, but just really understanding his role, his opportunities, where he's going to get on the floor and where he's going to be successful. Two's been good. Two's been good in camp, and I think that it shouldn't come as surprising, particularly after last year. He was really good in camp, and that's how he ended up getting the starting job. But again, I want to make sure I give Two his props too here, because he's another guy to watch as far as, what does he look like in year two? Even though he's older, those opportunities are there. So other than that, I think that's where we stand right now, is with the injury news and kind of where things are going. Yeah, I'll have some more content out later this week, some more written content. I'm going to crank out a bunch. I've been pretty jacked up the last couple of days, sick, so I wanted to hop on here and make sure I got something for you guys and give you an update on where things are and kind of where things are looking, at least. And then when I get the next update, I'll give you some more information there. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. It's just an I for right now. If you're up in Seattle on Friday, come say hi. I'll be up there. If you haven't been up there, it's a really, really cool trip. Obviously it's a short drive. The Climate Pledge Arena is tiny, but it's super cool. It kind of has a feel like Memorial Coliseum, where you're just on the floor. A really cool opportunity if you want to, just kind of check it out. I think it's sold out, but if you got tickets, great, awesome. Other than that, thank you all for being here. Like, rate, review, subscribe, help us grow the show. If you could leave a review and again, here, that'd be greatly appreciated. Share us with your friends, share us with your family. Do all of the things. You can find me on social media at Danny Marang, at Jacked Ramsays, and then email a show, jackedramsays@gmail.com. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye.